Wildlife photography can be very hard. Animals can be unpredictable, and many of them don't want to be found. Not only that, but a variety of wildlife live in remote areas. And let's not also forget that the weather can also be unpredictable. Photographers can spend literal years to get that perfect shot. The talent and dedication that people display is nothing short of incredible. However, like with anything, throughout the years there have been a few fakes and hoaxes popping up, and sometimes being circulated online. Sometimes they disappear only to pop up again a few years later, often paired with some claims about the photos that aren't true, like that it's an award-winning photo. There are also photos that are a bit ambiguous in their authenticity. Sometimes these photos are just created for fun, but I wanted to take a look at some that keep coming up, and maybe we can examine just how authentic some of these photos really are. For some reason, sharks are often used for these odd viral photos. Why? I'm not entirely sure. Perhaps it's because sharks are interesting. But also, thanks in part to the media, many people have a fear of sharks, and having them in some odd places can probably help grab attention. So let's look at some wild shark photos. Firstly, from a while back, the photo, sometimes titled Helicopter Shark. This used to be my desktop background back on Windows XP, stretched across the screen in all its low-res JPEG glory. I think even at the time I suspected it was probably some kind of a Photoshop, though a pretty good composite. Apparently, this picture was circulated a lot through emails back in 2001, and it often came with the message, "And you think you're having a bad day at work." The email would go on to say, quote, "Although this looks like a picture taken from a Hollywood movie, it is in fact a real photo taken near the South African coast during a military exercise by the British Navy. It has been nominated by National Geographic as the photo of the year." End quote. I mean, right away you can clearly see the Golden Gate in the background, so the location doesn't fully check out, but the claims of it being nominated for a Nat Geo Photo of the Year meant that Nat Geo themselves got involved to debunk the photo. It was not nominated as Photo of the Year, and it was proven that it was a composite of two photos. The Great White Breaching is a photo taken by Charles Maxwell in South Africa, and the helicopter, apparently a HH-60G Pavehawk, was an Air Force photo taken by Lance Chung. Speaking of viral shark photos that supposedly won Nat Geo awards, one that has been popping up more recently is a photo that supposedly shows a great white breaching. I was a little surprised at how often this one gets spread around, as I often see it in different animal groups, with the caption saying that it's another National Geographic Photo of the Year, supposedly taken by a photographer named Bob Burton. I mean, doesn't it look sort of obvious that it's a 3D model? I have stock footage of a video that's rotating what looks like to be a very similar model as well. But anyway, again, National Geographic had to come out and say that it was a fake photo. Apparently they don't even have a photographer named Bob Burton. The image was created by a 3D Russian artist named Alexey's 3D. I don't think the artists themselves tried to claim the image was real or won an award, or that it was anything more than a CGI creation, but I guess others took it and then used it to spread rumors. There are also a few shark images that seem to pop up after natural disasters, like hurricanes when areas become flooded. You often see images of sharks swimming around in those flooded areas. One famous one is the sharks swimming in the shopping mall. Supposedly, the story was that there was a scientific center in Kuwait with a shark tank that collapsed, releasing the sharks into the flooded mall. But the original photo was tracked down with no sharks in it, so it's very likely a composite. It seems hoaxes like this happen quite a bit when there are floods. This also ties into real photos that have fake descriptions, similar to the April Fool's Alaskan tiger photo, which was meant as a joke to be fair, but then there are other photos like this one that supposedly show a 21-foot crocodile, so that's 6.4 meters, that was found during Hurricane Katrina. Supposedly, this huge reptile was swimming down the streets of New Orleans. However, thanks to the work of the site Hoaxslayer, the photo was actually traced to the Republic of the Congo from 2 years earlier. The crocodile is apparently a Nile crocodile that was actually about 16 feet long, or about 5 meters. Still very big, but not 21 feet. And more importantly, the photo wasn't taken in New Orleans. Some have suggested certain photos with a forced perspective should be considered a hoax. I don't know if they should be though, because they are real photos, just shot from specific angles. I guess it can depend on what's being claimed, or what size is being claimed. There is another style though that uses some combination of miniatures and perspective to create some remarkable photos. I talked about it before, but there were photos of a huge anaconda, so large it had to be lifted by military trucks to be moved. There are even some photos with tanks around it, but the anaconda dwarfs them as well. The story that accompanied it was that this 134-foot or 40-meter snake apparently ate 257 people. However, these images came from a student project called Vietnam Army Caught the Giant Snake. And if you look a little closer, you can see that while maybe the snake is real, the soldiers, tanks, and trucks are actually toys. I think this is also another example where I don't think the original creators were trying to fool or prank anyone. They were just doing their own project, but then the picture gets spread around and others add their story to it. Anyway, let's look at some lion photos. First, let's look at the MGM lion, or lions, as there are many stories circulating online about them. The lion that roars in the MGM intro was replaced by a CGI lion in 2021. But before that, the company had different real lions in the logo. Multiple different ones since 1924. The logo was first designed for Goldwyn Pictures Corporation in 1916, and their tradition of having a lion continued on with the merger that created MGM in 1924. I've heard that the names of the lions used in the early logos of Goldwyn Pictures have been lost, but according to a document titled Logo History Restoration, it was all the same lion that appeared in the Goldwyn Pictures Corporation and the early MGM logo, a lion named Slats, who was born in Dublin Zoo. While many of us probably think of the MGM lion as roaring, in the early versions the lion didn't actually roar, it just sort of looked around a bit. And perhaps this contributed to the rumor that the lion was never supposed to roar. In later films we see the lion roar, and the lion that came after Slats, Jackie, actually had an audio recording to accompany the roar, but rumors spread that the lion only roared because local burglars broke into the warehouse during the time of filming. The story goes that two thieves ran in, the lion saw them and roared, and then went on to attack and maul one of the burglars. The other robber ran out of the studio and was instantly hit by a police car. I think this is just an urban legend, as Slats was trained to roar on command by his trainer, Volney Pfeiffer, a famous animal trainer in Hollywood. There were also rumors that one of the lions used in creating the logo killed their trainer and an assistant, but there are no official accounts of any of these lions killing anyone. And then there is a photo that allegedly shows the cruel method used to get a shot of the lion, seemingly having it strapped down onto a table. A large part of this image is real, but it has been digitally manipulated. There is a bit of a clue if you look at the person on the left in scrubs. This is actually an image of a 2-year-old male lion named Samson about to get a CAT scan after he became ill in a zoo in Israel. They noticed there was something wrong after he kept stumbling and falling, seemingly without a reason. And after he had a CAT scan, they realized he had a brain tumor and he had to undergo a risky 6-hour operation. But thankfully, he seemed to recover well. Samson was a Barbary lion, which leads us to the last photo. So before I have to mention it so I don't get comments about it, what was or is a Barbary lion? Barbary lions were once native to North Africa around the Atlas Mountains. Sometimes they're called Atlas lions, and they were declared extinct in the wild in the mid-20th century. It's difficult to give an exact date. Some sources say the last one was shot in Morocco in 1942, However, a paper put out in 2013 titled Examining the Extinction of the Barbary Lion and Its Implications for Felid Conservation examined a variety of sightings and suggested some of these lions may have survived into the 60s. While they were wiped out in the wild, individuals believed to be descendants of Barbary lions are maintained in captivity. For example, the Belfast Zoo houses Barbary lions and provides information about their conservation status. These lions are part of a breeding program aimed at preserving the genetic lineage of the Barbary lion. However, there is also some debate about how genetically distinct the Barbary lion actually is. In a 2016 genetic study, researchers found that the extinct Barbary lions from North Africa are actually closely related to lions from Central and West Africa, and interestingly, they also belong to the same genetic group as the Asiatic lion. Although some conservationists still question whether the samples came from true Barbary lions and if regional traits made them more unique than the DNA suggests. Wild Barbary lions seem to have some physical differences, such as thicker manes to help them survive in the mountains, as they were pushed out of their regular habitat due to hunting. The 2013 paper looking at their extinction in the wild noted a shift caused by being hunted, with many of the lions being spotted on their own. Quote, "The frequency of observations, particularly after the 1920s, which involves solitary animals rather than groups, may be entirely due to a dwindling population with lower density or a potential change in social behavior. So it's no wonder that the last photo taken of a wild Barbary lion taken by Marcelin Flandrin in 1925 shows a single male wandering through the sands of the Atlas Mountains. It's such a powerful image, seeing a once social animal solitary in a barren landscape alone. Even though this wouldn't be the last wild Barbary lion, it feels like it is. It feels like that's what the photo is captured. It's quite incredible. And this is the part of the video that ruins everything. For many years, I thought this was just an incredible photo, and I didn't really have any skepticism about it, until very recently. I was listening to Trey the Explainer's podcast, The Plastic Plesiosaur, and they had an episode talking about the Patterson Gimlet footage. But near the end, Trey mentioned that the Barbary lion photo might not be real. What? We don't know the exact location where the photo was taken, but it was supposedly taken somewhere in the Atlas Mountains during a flight on the Casablanca-Dakar air route. So it was taken from a plane and taken in an area where these lions did live at the time. So what's the issue? Well, the photo seems a little bit too perfect. For one, I was a little surprised when I learned this photograph was taken from a moving plane in 1925. Another thing is the footprints, or pug marks. They're a little bit strange. If you follow the lion, at certain points they seem to kind of fall off, and when you get close to the lion, they just stop, like they disappear before they actually get to where the lion is standing. But another thing that people have an issue with is the lion itself. It seems to be standing in an oddly upright pose. In fact, many have suspected that we are actually looking at a toy. I have noticed many lion toys do seem to have a similar pose. In fact, Darren Naish, who many of you may know, but if you don't know him, he's described as a British vertebrate paleontologist, author, and science communicator. But anyway, on Twitter, he said that, quote, "I still think the lion in the photo is a small toy. Even the tracks don't look right." Another paleontologist, Dave Hone, replied to this saying, "It just doesn't look like a real animal." Under that same thread, I also discovered an interesting photo created by Offshore Oddoties, where they used a few toy wolves in the snow to mimic photos taken in Yellowstone. Now, to be very clear, this was not a prank or a hoax or anything like that. They just did it for fun, and they had a caption explaining that with the photo. But some people apparently didn't read the caption. I messaged them on Twitter for permission to use the photo, and thank you for letting me use it. And they explained how these photos, again, not a prank, they're just for fun. But I wanted to show them just to show how convincing photos of toys can be. Now, Would Marcelin have hoaxed the photos? Well, he was a French military photographer, so he seems like someone who would have had the technical skill to capture exceptional images, so maybe he really did get this photo. However, during his time in Morocco, he became known for producing staged postcard photographs, particularly of women in Casablanca's red light district. His work apparently reflected colonial fantasies rather than reality, using carefully arranged scenes with specific clothing, props, and backdrops to evoke exotic imagery rather than authentic representations of local life. So, if he was staging these photos, could he have staged other photos? The lion photo was sold to newspapers, and then it was also put on postcards. But then again, if you captured a photo this good, you probably would want to sell it. I know many will say that I don't know what I'm talking about and I'm just jealous or whatever, but I really want this photo to be real. It's so iconic and it really captures the feeling of losing an animal to extinction. And maybe it is real. I hope it's real, but I'm a lot more skeptical now. But what do you think? Is there something I missed? Could it be a real photo? Anyway, thank you so much to my wonderful members and patrons, and thank you for watching.